Hello students. In this video I want to say a few things about the paper assignments in this class. There are 3 paper assignments, one due at the end of week 1, the next due at the end of week 3, and the final paper, which is due the last day of class. Now the first thing to note is that these papers are all meant to hang together. In fact, you can see the first 2 assignments as preparing you to write the final paper, so it might be a good idea to read at least part of all 3 assignments before starting with the first one. What you will notice is that the week 1 assignment has a list of several broad subject areas or topics, and each of these topics is broken down into a list of more specific questions and issues. The final paper will involve choosing a topic that you find interesting or challenging or that you might like to look more deeply into. You will then need to narrow things down to a specific ethical problem or question to be your focus, and once you've done that, you will take a position on that question, which you will express in the form of a thesis statement. And the rest of the paper will involve defending your position by considering the important issues pertaining to that question or problem, discussing them in light of some of the different kinds of approaches to ethics that we will be studying, and arguing for your position. In paper 1, you will be exploring some of these important issues. In paper 2, you'll be discussing the problem in light of one of the moral theories. So you can hopefully see how these first 2 papers will provide valuable practice exercises for your final paper. You don't need to write on the same topic for all 3 assignments. If you want to explore multiple topics in different assignments, that's fine. You might also find yourself interested in a different topic than the one you initially chose after thinking about it during one of our weeks, and if so, it's fine to switch topics. But if you do switch topics, you'll want to consider redoing a portion of these earlier papers before writing your final paper. When it comes to the topics themselves, I want to emphasize something that the assignment instructions say. Each of these topics is quite broad, and even though the questions listed under them are a bit more specific, they're still pretty broad themselves. In fact, whole books have been written on a lot of these specific questions. So what you will need to do is narrow down the issue to something you can discuss in just a few pages. And this is a way to really make it your own. Now, the overall purpose of these papers is not simply to defend a definite position on these questions, but to learn how to think critically about them. And that's why it's important to note that you will not actually be defending your own view until the final paper. That's because to adequately defend a view, you'll have to first be able to recognize what is at stake in this issue. What are the major concerns that would need to be considered and addressed, no matter what one's position is? And you will need to be able to construct a solid thesis statement that articulates your own position and the reasons for it. That's the focus of paper 1. Defending a position also involves reasoning well about it. So you will need to think about how someone would reason from a deontological or utilitarian perspective. Not because these give us the answers necessarily, but because they're examples of moral reasoning that you can engage. And part of reasoning well is being able to consider objections to a moral argument. And both of these are part of the task of your week 3 assignment. The main thing to be aware of now is that your final paper is going to bring together what you practiced in the first 2 papers to produce a well-crafted philosophical essay that demonstrates what you have learned about ethical reasoning, so that you can offer a solid argument in defense of your own position. So in short, these papers, and indeed this course itself, are really about learning how to think deeply and critically about ethical issues and how to reason well about them. Thanks for watching this, and be sure to watch the other videos on each particular assignment.